Well, if there is a cinematography gene, that means that my son will have it. And my son was actually born at the Sundance Film Festival. So I guess we really are kind of festival junkies. My son Walker was born on the evening of our premiere. Susan and I probably shouldn't have flown out there when we were so close to delivery, but you know what it's like being an independent filmmaker. You got your film, that's really your baby.
Sundance.
Sundance, you know, and so until the real baby arrived, we kind of, you know, we had this other baby, so we felt like we had to go out there, and lo and behold, we had 2 premieres at Sundance. It was great. We just made it to the hospital in Salt Lake City. I was driving down that canyon. My wife was in the passenger seat having contractions every 2 minutes going down that canyon from Park City to Salt Lake, and the gas gauge was on empty. And I had to stop and get gas while she was having contractions every 2 minutes. I thought I was going to deliver that baby right on the side of the road. And I didn't have my camera. There was no document. This did not become a personal documentary. However, we got to the hospital, and within 30 minutes, we had a baby. It was actually a high point in my life, because I think everything that was important to me was kind of coming together all at once. Filmmaking is a family thing where I come from, and I don't know whether that's good or bad, but it's what I got. And I owe a lot to my parents and my uncle and my grandfather. You know, it was kind of, my wife, on the other hand, came from a family of doctors, and when she wanted to be a filmmaker, that was like revolutionary in her family. They're like, what? Why don't you get a real job? Now, for me, I come from a family of filmmakers, so I'm a conformist, basically, just, you know, following in my father's footsteps.
Robert Young.
Robert Young, my father. But actually, I was fascinated about it growing up. I mean, we grew up, you know, we had a 16 projector. My father was always showing prints of his film about the Eskimos, or his film about the Maasai, his film about poverty in Sicily. And you know, those images just resonated with me growing up. And so I guess it was only natural that as soon as I was making films on my own, I wanted to go back and visit some of the subjects that he had filmed, which is what Susan and I did on our film Children of Fate, which was the first film that we had at Sundance. Was really a revisitation, 30 years later, kind of a la 7 Up, 28 Up inspired. And it turned out to be an amazing experience. You know, he has had a very eclectic career. Everything from, you know, sharks underwater to, you know, Farrah Fawcett in extremities, and many things in between. And I guess my career has mirrored his in a lot of ways, which really means that ultimately the credit goes to him, because I had to get the idea from somewhere to do all this crazy stuff. I was drawn to very much to animals, and I was drawn to people, and so I've made films about a lot of different subjects. I mean, you know, kids in gangs, dating violence, poverty, AIDS, and then, you know, things like Alaska grizzly bears, bald eagles, Madagascar, lemurs, fusa, all kinds of weird animals, buki, chameleons. Somehow they all kind of fit into one career for me, because it's really all about storytelling and trying to visualize the storytelling. You know, the year that I won my cinematography Emmy, one of the jurors came up to me and said, what we did was we ran all of the films with no sound. And the one that kind of leapt out at us and we felt like we understood the story completely was the one we gave the Emmy to. And that was a film that I had made about the wildlife of Madagascar. And that meant a lot to me, hearing that, because when I was making the film, I was very much like, how do I use the camera to tell this story? Because, you know, who wants to hear a narrator? You know, filmmaking is a visual medium. And my father used to always tell me, until I was sick of hearing it, put the camera where the story is. And I guess it kind of sunk in, because that's what I was doing when I was making that film, and it paid off. It's very hard to make a film about something or someone that you don't have some admiration for. I mean, some people do, and they do it skillfully, but I prefer to do films where I can have a real relationship with the subject. If I had a rule of cinematography, it would be put the camera where the story is. And I learned that one from my old man. Put the camera where the story is. That sounds like a pretty abstract comment. Like, what does that really mean? But what it meant for me was, when filming people, trying to find the psychological space between the characters. If there's a number of characters interacting in a room, rather than standing back and trying to be a fly on the wall, to get inside, to get inside the triangle and actually catch gazes from people that are much closer into the lens, because you're within the action yourself. I think if it's filming animals, which I do a lot of too, it involves using remote-controlled cameras. When I was in Alaska, I put remote-controlled cameras in the river so that I could see, very intimate stuff of salmon mating and, the feet of the brown bears crashing through the water, because that's where it's all happening. And it just required thought of how to get the camera where I felt like it really needed to be.